Ladies and gentlemen, it's Steve Bannon's Sulfuric Acid Hot Tub.
Sometimes you need to break out in a cold sweat. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hot towel. Hot. What about to? It's a hot towel. Very, 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 very hot.
Don't go away. Tonight in the hot tub, convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
That's the Steve Bannon Celebrity Hot Tub. Sal, how are you?
Oh man, it's been a wild week, but that is just that was next level trolling right there. That was a good one. I
We
like
almost
that one.
didn't start on time because of that, but I got it in just under the AI wire.
You go. That's how it has to be. And look, the minute, like literally, you always talk about social engineering, right? Steve Bannon. So yesterday on my own show, discussed the latest stuff that's going on. There's text messages now. Now we're going back to the hot tub that had sulfuric acid in it, and there's a receipt in the Epstein files for a company that we don't know who owns ordering a vat of acid. Okay, so all of this goes on, and then right away you see the social engineer project would be what I had discussed was that Steve Bannon, through Miles Guo, had a campaign of influencing conservative podcasters or whatever, just conservative influencers, so that they all, the DC Drano effect. DC Drano posts, that means someone else posts, and it's always the same thing. So this was something that was a campaign, apparently, from Miles Guo, CCP. So all of this, I'm talking about all of this in the video. And of course, Jason, here comes someone, I don't know who they are, but they're clearly a Bannon sycophant or come from Bannon's camp and basically say you are innuendo and all. No, what I said was true. Look up also the Real America's Voice owner. He was a convicted felon. I believe there's a mortgage fraud case, which, Jason, you know a lot about all these people with that. So that guy is also entrenched with Bannon, right? We have this whole, we're going back now for the hot tub incident in his old home in Miami. And then the latest batches of emails and all this stuff that they're going back and forth on. And basically, Bannon is not only the swamp, I think he created the swamp. He's been a swamp guy forever. And some people are in denial. Joe Kopp would do the same if they were in the police department, law enforcement. Joe Kopp knows it all, says it all, knows nothing. And we have the same in the civilian. That's low information. The low information person will defend Steve Bannon, Jason, no matter what. But yet there's a lot here. And if this guy thinks he's going to run for president, he's got another thing coming because he's going to have to answer all these very pertinent questions, Jason, about what the hell's going on there.
No, it's absolutely crazy, Sal. We're going to be getting deep into this. It's important that I remind people that we're going to have a sponsor-exclusive segment right after this. People are going to be able to join us on thesalgreco.substack.com. People can subscribe to you there, Sal, get articles and videos. And, I wasn't signed in on this one. Articles, videos, our sponsor exclusive videos. This is a new addition to the Sal Greco media empire. People can also follow you and your nearly daily broadcasts on X at the Sal Greco. You've got lots of different social media platforms that everybody can follow you on. It's amazing what Steve Bannon is doing. I don't think he has a chance at running for president. And I mean, doesn't he tell us that he's Navy intelligence? Let me back up a second. First of all, the sulfuric acid thing came from the homeowner. He rented a home in Miami, and the guy said, hey, you destroyed the hot tub with sulfuric acid. I guess, do you normally put some amount of sulfuric acid in a swimming pool or a hot tub? I've heard about chlorine, but I don't know about sulfuric acid. I'm not a pool expert.
What would happen is I believe the sulfuric acid probably would burn right through the plastic or whatever material this tub is made. I don't know what it was made out of, but what What you can do with sulfuric acid is make crystal meth, which would make more sense if that's the avenue. I mean, look, is this guy doing drugs on top of it? Who knows? I mean, this guy's a party guy with Jeffrey Epstein, but that's one of the things you would. I mean, obviously, we've heard of stories like this back in the 70s and 80s. Obviously, Gambino crime family had a couple of people, one being Roy DeMeo, who would butcher people in a bathtub in the Gemini Lounge, which is still around on Flatlands Avenue. It's just a church now, of all things, in a back room. And he would hang human beings from there and drain their blood and then chop them up and put them send them to the garbage dump not too far from there, the Fountain Avenue garbage dump. There was another guy. He was doing the same thing a couple of miles, 2 blocks away from an infamous diner in Queens. But that place was a vat of acid. They had a vat of acid and they would dump your body in it. And later on, they discovered all these things years later, the FBI, who was asleep at the wheel on a lot of these matters, because you had people like Andrew Weissman and others that were covering up for these mob guys. So to hear that Steve Bannon, this kind of stuff, you're starting to go into the criminal aspect of things, of what the hell was going on. And this neighborhood in Miami, you could check it out on Google's map, see where it is. It's a quiet little neighborhood. And then you find a hot tub full of acid, and I don't think that's how you wash a pool, Jason. I think there's chlorine, there's other. I mean, you have to empty out the water.
Just to be clear for a second, Sal, because I want to explore what you're saying. Sulfuric acid is used in pool maintenance to control the pH, but I think the suspicion arises here in that obviously you don't put in so much that the guy who owns the hot tub calls you and says, hey, you've destroyed it. Now, maybe someone who doesn't know what they're doing was maintaining Steve Bannon's hot tub, but it is coincidental that there was a separate report of Jeffrey Epstein ordering like some incredible sum. I don't know how much. I think you probably don't need that much to control the pH. Like a jug the size of Clorox or something is probably enough for the whole summer. Why are they having truckloads of this stuff?
Yeah, and this is where all this speculation comes from. And listen, it is a little speculative what we're doing here, but again, if you start to read into these text messages and every communication that's transpired between Jeffrey Epstein and Steve Bannon, who was really close to the final days of Jeffrey Epstein's life, that is something as a law enforcement, and I can attest to that. Remember, that's what I did. That is something that you would highlight and put a big circle around if you were investigating a case, saying, here's the guy that he seems to be the closest with at the very end. And it just, everything here should be asked and looked into. And, Jason, they're having all these congressional hearings. Steve Bannon should be in these Epstein congressional hearings.
Why?
And if he does the same thing he did last time, then go to jail again for ignoring a subpoena. I mean, that's how it works. That's how life is.
Let's stay on this detail for a second, Sal, because I like what you're saying about investigating this. So sulfuric acid, it's typically used to lower the pH, and a common dosage is approximately 1 pint, so like a glass of beer, for every 10,000 gallons of water. So, I mean, again, a jug the size of Clorox, you'd have it in the garage, and maybe for years you would use that to make and a hot tub is nowhere near the amount of water. So it is suspicious. I mean, that's the thing. If it was like, hey, if you called me up and said, oh man, I read the thing wrong and destroyed my hot tub because I put in the whole thing of sulfuric acid and now the plastic is cracking, that's one thing. But these guys are up to so much sinister stuff, so much suspicious behavior. It really calls into question every single thing they're doing. And you've got Pam Bondi in Congress. That was like listening to two girls in high school fight, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you're the Attorney General of the Department of Justice. You're not the Attorney General of the Trump administration, where you defend everything and defend. You represent the Department of Justice. You represent basically the law in this country. You're the top law enforcement official next to the president. The president ultimately has the final say, but he delegates that to the attorney general, who's has to get through a congressional hearing to get anointed that. So when you start saying at a hearing, Jason, and it is all the victims sitting behind of this unscrupulous deceased billionaire, and you're sitting there talking about NASDAQ and the stock market. Listen, that trolling stuff, this is how Trump has gotten into trouble. It's real cute. The meme thing, I mean, there's a guy out there who does that all the time. Some of the stuff is funny. This is a serious matter. You're a government official, and you don't joke around about certain things, especially when the victims of this animal are sitting behind you and you think it's a big joke and you want to troll people on national TV. And by the way, the stock market actually going down. It was going down. It wasn't going up. So she's actually false on that. Just shows you that if she's doing Trump's bidding, which, again, if you remember the first term, a lot of turnover, a lot of chaos, right? If you're doing his bidding and then you're going to have to bid adieu soon because if the Democrats take over, she's going to get impeached and God knows what, because it's one thing after the other with her. It's one thing after the other with Kash Patel. It's one thing after the other with others in this administration, Kristi Noem. So that answer is also, it's almost like a heartless thing to do with people there. And as the attorney general and as an attorney, I would be embarrassed for doing that. I don't know if she was put up to that, if that's her defense of Trump, but she has stock in Truth Social and all that. But you work for the people. You represent the Department of Justice. You don't work as a chief of staff to President Trump. So again, I have no idea what that was about. It really, talking about the stock market with victims in a case standing behind you and sitting there, that's as unprofessional as it gets. And we've been critical of Merrick Garland. We have to be critical of Pam Bondi. I mean, we call balls and strikes. You can't favor one side or the other when you got incompetence running amok here, Jason.
It seems worse than incompetence because, I mean, as you said, to be so insensitive and particularly, I mean, I don't know, this is a weird thing maybe to say, but particularly as a woman to be so insensitive to these female victims of sex crimes, it was super weird. Sal, I don't know if you and I have spoken about this specifically, but Charles Ortel brought to my attention that Pam Bondi was a lobbyist with a company called Ballard Partners, which Susie Wiles was, I think, the principal at. And it's a little strange that this lobbying firm, they lobbied for Pfizer and all kinds of different, Abbott Laboratories is a pharmaceutical company. All of these big firms that, paid this company, I guess, millions of dollars and stuff. Booz Allen Hamilton, I mean, that's basically the CIA. ByteDance is Chinese. We've got all these Chevron, all these different interests that are, paying or have paid or will probably in the future. Look at this. Government of Japan, Kosovo, Liberia, Mali, Turkey.
Oh
right.
God.
All of these different things were clients to this lobbying firm that Pam Bondi was working for. I mean, I just wonder, any of these things making sulfuric acid or doing business with Steve Bannon?
Oh my God. Yeah, that's not a good look, but again, I don't think Bondi and Bannon, that I wouldn't say that she indirectly knew of or knows Steve Bannon, but clearly as the attorney general, and she was a prosecutor also in Florida, she knows about the case of Jeffrey Epstein in West Palm in Palm Beach. So again, I don't know what ties there are to that, if there are any at all, but I could tell you this comes up a lot in that obviously she was lobbying and now you're the attorney general of the country, and then you sound like you don't know anything about what's going on, and it's almost insulting people's intelligence, and what she did yesterday, again, if you did that, Jason, and you were a licensed attorney, they would sanction you and try to disbar you for what she did.
Yeah.
But she's not, because she's a Trump sycophant or something. I don't know. I mean, you got to be critical of this stuff. We can sit here. We all voted for Trump, but are we exactly happy about everything? No. And I would expect more out of someone that I voted for and wanted in office than the other side, which I know was going to be bad and didn't vote for. And that's the point. Everyone has a problem with trying to hold people accountable. Joe Cop, whose law enforcement does the same thing, have all these problems in law enforcement. Don't hold anyone accountable. Back to blue. If a police officer murders someone, oh, well, I know him, so he has to do it for a reason. No, he should get prosecuted and, just murdered someone. But you hear this from these cops. And I'm going to an extreme saying something crazy like that. But that's essentially what's going on. And with this, it's the same thing. They run to defend Pam Bondi because, it's a Trump surrogate or what. She's not a Trump surrogate. She is the attorney general. She was a Trump surrogate at one point.
Well, she's not supposed to be, but she's essentially acting as one.
It's not like, listen, Merrick Garland did not sit there and talk about the stock market and stuff when they were berating him about all the issues with the DOJ when Biden was president. You have to call a spade a spade. Otherwise, people will say, you're just biased, you're MAGA, whatever they want to call you, sycophant. We can't be like that, Jason. I'm not like that. And I'm going to be fair. You have to be fair. That's all being fair. You want to be a sycophant. Pam Bondi's the greatest. Look at her. She's done so great at the DOJ. That's the sycophant. And you're like, what are you talking about? So I only know one way, Jason. So that's the way you have to be.
Well, Sal, you've also been covering a lot of stories on X and elsewhere. What happened with this DUI NYPD officer?
So far, that sergeant in that case, here's the particular case was she was driving, I think, northbound and the southbound lanes of the Taconic Parkway. She collided with an individual who unfortunately perished. He was a doorman. And by all intents and purposes, the guy he tried to be a cop years ago. I think his name is Manuel Botel, who has his own GoFundMe. He was just going home from work. He wasn't doing anything. She hit him head on. He unfortunately perished. So on the scene, there was obviously a lot of police. There was EMS, meaning medical assistance. Oh, and the duty captain showed up, and the duty chief from the New York City Police Department showed up. And they suspended her because on the scene, EMS and other people there said she was intoxicated. Now, there was tons of phone calls made because this sergeant was associated with and worked for the chief of department, Michael Hansi LaPetri. Hansi because he likes to touch a lot of girls lately in parties and other settings. So, yeah, it's a fraternizing haven over there in the NYPD, One Police Plaza. So when this happened, there were phone calls made. So the state troopers that arrived, Jason, gave her, they offered her a breathalyzer. She refused. Now, there's two things. Any signs of intoxication, bloodshot, watery eyes, slurred speech, alcoholic beverage emitting from your breath, or when you stand up unsteady on your feet is an automatic arrest, especially in an event of a fatality and an accident on top of it. It's two things. It's a double whammy. It's a felony. So with that being said, they did not arrest her. They took her to the hospital where they did perform the toxicology report, but we don't know how long this took because the procedure is you make an arrest and within 2 hours you have to do the blood test or blood test or bring them to do the breathalyzer officially. They run the whole gambit. There's a whole procedure with that. You have to be a technician operating the CMI Toxilizer 9000 and so on and so forth. So that didn't happen here, Jason. What happened is they unsuspended. They only modified her. So they went against the chief and the captain and the inspector who also was notified. All three agreed to suspend her, and then somehow she was only modified. 24 hours after this, she shows up to the pension section, apparently, and puts in her vested retirement paperwork. Remember, she has 18 years on, not 20 years on. Then, because of all this reporting, so you have 18 years on. You don't have 20 years on. You can't just say, I quit, I'm leaving, I'm retiring, because you don't have the full 20 years. You don't get your full pension. You get about 30 to 40%. It's a reduced pension, and you can't collect your benefits till you would have reached your 20th year if you leave right at that moment. But remember...
So that's bad that she's leaving early. She obviously recognizes that this is a huge deal.
Yeah, but it's not entirely over with. So it's a 30 days the police commissioner has to accept this. Remember, because they can still, she's pending. There's a whole case with that. So after my reporting on all of this and explaining who was on the scene, the NYPD waits a couple of days and week and then suspends her officially. Now she's officially suspended. And then on top of it, a day or two later, she then goes and pulls her paperwork for vested retirement. She's no longer doing that. Because, Jason, if she's convicted of this crime, then you lose your pension regardless, because it's a felony and you don't have the 20 years on to collect your pension. You'd be waiting on a vested pension. So the whole scene, the whole thing, we don't see. This is when you're going out of your way to protect someone or do a favor. And by the way, we do have her placed at a bar at her own event, Holy Society event, where she was there and there's alcohol involved. So everyone who defended her or the Joe Coppers, now they're nowhere to be found. Because initially they come after you with ad hominem attacks. Then when everything is verified, even though I'm a journalist, I'm verifying things. I don't just put things out there. Oh, well, they come after me. You're a snitch. You're a rat. You're this. You're that. I didn't know, Jason, when I became a police officer, I swore to some omerta where if a cop does something and is not held accountable, we keep our mouth shut and cover for our own, because that's why you have the problems you have today. No one was ever held accountable for the last, I don't know how many decades, Jason. And the people are starving for accountability. If you hold each other accountable, this kind of stuff wouldn't happen. She shouldn't have been driving drunk, right?
Oh, no, certainly not.
It happened. And then you cover it up and try to make her leave and all this stuff and not arrest her. That's the cover-up. That's the cover-up. She was suspended, unsuspended. They didn't arrest her. There's a breathalyzer.
Sal, if I understood what you said correctly, by trying to get the pension early, was she anticipating that she might be convicted? She would lose the whole pension if she was convicted, right? She's almost trying to cash out before she gets in trouble.
Yeah, I don't know can't speculate exactly why, but the reasoning behind that is you would be vesting out, collecting as much money as you can. You're probably going to need a good defense attorney to try to even get you out of it's a felony. I don't know how you're going to plead down to, but this is the kind of stuff that would occur in a criminal case, but you would vest out so that you take your pen. But again, the police commissioner, once they suspend you, could also, you want to leave? Oh, so they could say, all right, well, I'm going to terminate you. And then I'm going to go through the department trial and just find you guilty because you're not there. You don't belong to the police department anymore. You can't defend yourself. So that's the other thing that was looming over her, is that the police commissioner could deny this at any moment.
Has she said anything about this?
No,
probably not. A lawyer would tell her not to.
She's too busy saying crime is down and we're splitting the Bronx
into
two
not the
boroughs.
soccer mom. I mean the sergeant. Has the sergeant said anything public?
There's all silence there because this is really bad. It's one incident that I could just show you what goes on in a police department, in the culture, why we're trying to accept bad behavior and then make excuses for it, kind of like the Bannon sycophants are making excuses for his bad behavior. That's why the world is the way it is. If you hold each other accountable and just say, hey, wait, what are you doing? This all could have been avoided, by the way. Remember, she's at this party, there's alcohol. Someone could have drove her. Someone could have told her, stop serving her alcohol. Nobody thought about that. They just, okay, go do it. So did this happen in the past? I don't know. Bad behavior usually means there's a pattern of bad behavior.
So we only have about another minute before we make our way over to the sponsor exclusive segment on thesalgreco.substack.com and also on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com and on subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. I just want to mention really quickly, people might have heard yesterday, I have developed a search engine for Crowdsource the Truth Subscribestar viewers. So if you're on there now, you can use this handy dandy search engine. I'm a software developer now, Sal, not just making funny cartoons with AI, but people can go to search.crowdsourcethetruth.org, or you can get it through Subscribestar. It's free for anybody at all to use, and you can search. You just go in over here and type a keyword like Sal, and it brings back all of the shows that we've done, and people can, go look them up and see them there on Subscribestar. Even if you're not a subscriber, you can use this, and if you land on a subscriber-only video, of course, you'll have to subscribe to watch that. But we've got a lot to talk about on the sponsor-exclusive segment.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to get into details. You've now filed an expanded federal complaint, so this goes back to all of the issues that you've been fighting for so long. But let's just have everybody join us over there. We'll be back in less than 5 minutes, so stay with us, everybody. We'll be right back.